Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome back. This is Sage. You're watching 𝐾𝐿 TV live from the Sydney studio. And this is the last show of the day, the last trade. Let's see how the Australian share market performed today. While the trading session is heading towards a close, well, the Australian shares are heading towards a positive close on Monday, driven by strong rallies in the mining and the realty stocks, as well as the healthcare and banking stocks. And the market was off from the day's high due to selling pressures witnessed in utilities, consumer staples, energy and telecom stocks. The concerns about rising COVID-19 infections in the country also weighed on the market sentiments. And as per the latest update, the country's most populous state of New South Wales has reported 112 locally acquired COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours. And this is the highest daily number of new infections reported in the state so far. The S&P ASX 200 was trading above 0.7% at 7,319.10 during the final hour of the day's trade. And earlier today, the index opened higher and gained as much as 1.1% to hit an intraday high of 7,353, crossing above its 20-day moving average. The market breadth indicating the overall strength of the market was positive, with majority of the 11 sectoral indices trading in the green, and the materials sector was the top performer with 2% gains. Among others, AREIT, healthcare, financial information technology and consumer discretionary were the notable gainers. And meanwhile, utilities sector was the worst performer on the ASX with a 0.4% loss. Among others, telecom, consumer staples and energy were the top laggards. And on this note, let's now see how the sectoral indices performed today. The information technology staged a smart recovery, rebounding over 0.6%, tracking firm cues from the US counterpart Nasdaq. In the tech space, buy now, pay later giant Afterpay and software firm Nearmap were among the top gainers, while the network operator Megaport and fintech firm 𝐧𝐞 were under the pressure. In the energy space, index heavyweight Woodside Petroleum, Origin Energy, Beach Energy and Ampol were trading in the green territory, while Santos and Oil Search slipped into the red. Then in the mining sector, index heavyweights BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals Group were trading higher, owing to the rise in the iron ore futures on the Dalian Commodity Exchange. And the rally in the resource stocks were also supported by the People's Bank of China's decision to cut the reserve requirement ratio, or RRR, for all banks by 50 basis points, the amount of cash most banks must hold in reserve to boost lending. And moving on now. Among the gold stocks, sectoral major De Grey Mining, Ramelius Resources, Newcrest Mining and the smaller Chalice Mining were among the leading gainers. And next, in the banking sector, all of Australia's big four lenders, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Australia New Zealand Banking Group and the Westpac Banking Corporation, as well as the National Australia Bank, were trading higher today. And moving on again, let's now have a quick look at the top gainers and losers of the day. Civil and mining contractor NRW Holdings was the top percentage gainer on the ASX pack, rising over 10% on a plan to sell its major mining equipment to Boggabri coal operations, or Boggabri coal operations. Some of the other notable gainers were the energy firm Viva Energy Miners, Mineral Resources, Nickel Mines and the tech firm Nearmap. And on the flip side, the global online marketplace Redbubble was the top loser on the ASX, falling nearly 3%. Some of the other notable losers include professional services company Worley, fintech firm Hub24 and the investment firm Washington H. Soul Pattinson, and infant formula company A2 Milk Company. Let's now take a look at the Australian shares that created a buzz today. Investors cheered the resurgence in corporate mergers and acquisitions, or M&A activity. In a major M&A development, Australian conglomerate Wesfarmers unveiled its plan to foray into Australia's $25 billion pharmacy sector after making a $687 million bid to acquire the local pharmaceutical retailer and distributor, Australian Pharmaceutical Industries, or API. Reacting to the news, shares of Wesfarmers gained as much as 0.9%, reaching $58.54 Australian. The company, the owner of Australian retail chain Kmart and Bunnings, has proposed to acquire 100% of API's shares, outstanding for $1.38 Australian cash per share by way of a scheme of arrangement. The bid price represents a 21% premium to API's last close price of $1.145 Australian per share. Boosted by the development, shares of Australian Pharmaceutical Industries, or API, rallied as much as 20.5% to hit an intraday high of $1.38 Australian. In other M&A news, mining services company NRW Holdings has announced that it would sell its major mining equipment to Boggabri Coal Operations. And Boggabri Coal is a part of Idemitsu Group and can exercise options to acquire a majority of mining equipment of Golding Contractors, its wholly owned subsidiary. And Golding is engaged in the maintenance of the Boggabri coal mine. Moving on, Chalice Mining shares gained as much as 3.13%, reaching $7.57 Australian after Australian miner said it would split its gold asset. And Chalice Mining is in an exchange filing on Monday, unveiled a plan to split its Australian gold assets to create a separate standalone, well-funded Australian gold exploration company with a high-quality asset base in Victoria and Western Australia. The company believes that the demerger of gold-focused entity would be an optimal structure to maximise value for its shareholders. And the exploration and production company has decided to pursue a demerger and initial public offering, or IPO, of Pyramid Hill and its other gold projects in the fourth quarter of 2021. And this would be subject to finalisation of the transaction structure and nod from shareholder and regulators. Then the shares of Iron Road gained as much as 8.3% to 26 cents after iron ore miners said it has executed contracts to acquire 24 hectares of Gulf front land at Cape Hardy, and this adds to the 1,100 hectares of Port Precinct land already owned by the firm. Iron Road said the total consideration for the purchase and ongoing Cape Hardy development costs is expected to be about $1 million Australian dollars this quarter. Next up, the shares of Range International Limited fell as much as 14%, down to 1.2 cents on the rising COVID-19 cases in its Indonesian facility. The plastic pallet manufacturer says 28 staff in the Indonesian facility turned positive for COVID-19. It stated the impact on the company operations is currently minimal. It added the company will reduce one shift per day for the time being and will make up its loss in production by extending other shifts with overtime and employing new daily workers as required. And now it's time for a short break, but please stay tuned as I'll be back with the trending updates for the Australian share market. Welcome back, Sage here, your host live from Calcine Studios in Sydney, and you're watching The Last Trade. Moving on now, shares of phosphate maker Fertos Limited gained as much as 16% to 32.5 cents. The company stated its carbon division, Fertos Carbon, has executed an agreement with the US-listed Trimble Inc. to allow carbon credits generated in the Fertos' agriculture and reforestation projects to be traded. Let us look at the next news maker. Shares of Okapi Resources climbed as much as 38.6%, reaching 30.5 cents. The gold explorer is all set to acquire Tallahassee Resources Pty Limited, which holds a portfolio of uranium projects in the United States. And then the digital lender Quick Fee fell as much as 3.8%, down to 0.255 Australian dollars after advancing earlier 11.3%, up to 29.5 cents. On weak earnings forecasts, the company stated it expects 2021 financial year losses after tax to be between 8 to 9 million Australian dollars, bigger than last year's loss of 3.8 million Australian dollars. Next up, the share price of the software firm Objective Corporation Limited gained 0.5% after the company reported strong earnings in the financial year 21. The company saw its revenue growing by 36%, while the annual recurring revenue, or ARR, surged 31% as compared to the last fiscal. And meanwhile, shares of Live Verdure surged over 2.5% to 20 cents after the company announced the launch of its first Therapeutic Goods Administration approved product. And the company has registered first sales of its new scientifically formulated turmeric capsules, TheraJoint Plus. And then Sayona Mining Limited dropped as much as 13.4%, down to 8.4 cents. After discounted equity raise on Monday, the lithium producer has raised 45 million Australian dollars via a share placement and has plans to raise another 5 million Australian dollars in a retail offering. Last but not least, Australian biotech firm Medlab Clinical. Shares rose over 3% to 16 cents after the Australian Ethics grants approval for the Nanobiz cancer bone pain phase 3 trial. And Nanobiz is Medlab's most advanced non-opioid pain medication utilising Medlab's patented delivery platform NanoCell. Let's now take a look at the Asian markets performance. The equity markets in the Asia-Pacific region were trading in the green, snapping Friday's losses amid firm cues from Wall Street. In Japan, the benchmark Nikkei 225 was up 2%, while the Topix index jumped 1.78%. In neighbouring South Korea, the benchmark Kospi also advanced 0.95%. In a similar trend, Taiwan capitalisation weighted stock index traded 0.85% higher, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 0.7%. Singapore's Straits Times was up 0.25%. And China's Shanghai Composite was up 0.9% after the People's Bank of China on Friday slashed the reserve requirement ratio, or RRR, for all banks by 50 basis points to boost the economic growth. The move may uplift the credit takeoff in the economy, which has been witnessing early signs of a slowdown. And on Friday, all three major US stock indices ended higher as financials and other economically focused sectors rebounded from a sell-off sparked by the growth worries earlier in the week. The S&P 500 rose 1.13%, the Dow Jones gained 1.30%, and the Nasdaq Composite added 0.98%. And thanks for joining us in our live updates today. That's all for now. And Sage signing off, but we will be bringing you more stock updates and market charters in our shows tomorrow. So please stay tuned with 𝐾𝐿KIND TV for more live updates across the economy, markets and sectors.